I can hear it still. A mechanical pulse that quivers its way through the walls and floor and into my apartment. Steady, methodical, constant. All day and all night. How long has it been here? I wondered to myself. I'm looking out through my peephole again. Nothing outside moves, but the world looks back at me tilted and distorted, just like my thoughts have been over the course of the last month. I move away from the door and back into the living room of my apartment. The world outside seems distant, but upon further inspection from my window I can see movement in the parking lot of people coming and going from a moving truck. It's a young couple. I don't know them. I don't recognize them. Whilst carrying their things inside, I watch them silently. The normality of the entire situation seems out of place to me. I walk to the intercom and stare at it. The grease-stained fingerprints on the keys stand as a reminder of things recently passed. I push 2, then 0, then 5. I clear my throat. Mary? I let go of the call button and stand in silence for a moment. The rhythmic pulse seems hypnotic. I hold the call button again. Mary, please. Silence responds and the small red LED light goes out on the intercom. I walk back to my front door and go back to looking through the peephole. I shift my position and look as far as I can in either direction. The hall stands empty, but with my face this close to the door, the mechanical pulse across the hall feels relaxing and comforting, as if just knowing it was there meant that she was okay. I move to my couch and sit down. The pulsing across the hallway becomes a lullaby as I drift slowly into a sleep. Mary and I sit on a bench. I can't tell you where we are, but we are there together, and I am at peace with that for the moment. She stares ahead. She's motionless except for her breathing. Mary, where are you? My voice seems to echo in the moment, and although I'm sure she can hear me, there is little to no response. Looking down, realize that she's holding the box from the hole in the tree. I glance down at the box, her fingers trace the latch and the edges as she stares off into the distance. You shouldn't have been there. Her voice, soft and calm, seems emotionless. I take her hands in mine and together we hold the box. I lean over so that she has no choice but to face me, yet her eyes look through me as if I'm not even there. Mary, please. What is happening? Her big brown eyes search the horizon and slowly come to focus on me. There's a sadness there, for the first time I've ever seen since our meeting. Her eyes are dulled as if she is completely uninterested with everything in existence. Mary, what is happening? I repeat again, but this time I pull her face softly with my hands to turn closer to mine. You shouldn't have been there, she whispers, and this time her view never moves from mine, and in the brown abyss that is her eyes I see tears swell up slowly and then slip down her cheeks. Her hands move under mine and I watch her open the box slowly. The silk coverings inside shimmer in the sunlight. The locket of hair sits in the middle, the button to its left, and the picture folded neatly and tucked to the right of it all. She looks down at the box and runs her fingers against each of the items within it. There are things you can never know, she whispers. Things that I cannot tell you, if this is going to continue. Her eyes never leave the contents of the box. She thumbs the button and flips it over as she does so. Canary Button Co. is stamped on the underside of the button. She runs her thumb over the logo and lets out a mild sigh. Somewhere off in the distance, the mechanical pulse still rhythmically mocks me. I run my fingers across her hands and slowly towards the box. She turns me and snaps the box closed before I can come into contact with anything in its grasp. There are things you cannot know. Do you understand? Her voice seemed oddly metallic and cut through the air like a knife through paper. I struggle to think of something to say, but all that comes out is her name. Mary? Yes or no, she replies. I nod, but she simply repeats her previous statement. My head swirled with the sounds of her voice. The world seems to twist as if I were viewing it from within my apartment through my peephole. Mary, what's happening? My vision grows dim. The pulsations, once in the distance, are now just behind my eyes, and my head feels as if a vice is crushing me. Mary stands up, the box now misplaced from her hands as she does so. I fall from the bench and I watch her stand over me. Her yellow sundress blows in the wind, revealing her tanned legs, which seem to never end as I look up to her. My grip loosens from the bench. I can feel my body shutting down, and then there is darkness. It's cold. I don't know how much time has passed, but the disorientation I feel is something that I cannot explain. I open my eyes and I am again sitting on the couch in my living room. The mechanical pulse radiates through the building. Mary? I say out loud. What did you say? A voice from the kitchen sends shockwaves through me as I turn towards it. A woman walks into the living room carrying 2 plates of food and sets them upon the table. I just stare at her. Who is she? How did she get in my apartment? I stand slowly watching as she disappears back into the kitchen. What do you want to drink? She calls out. I'm having wine. Do you want apple juice or do you just want something? My throat is dry and my voice struggles to escape my mouth as my mind frantically tries to wrap itself around the situation I find myself in. Yeah, cola is fine. I move towards the kitchen, and as she steps back into the main living area, she places 2 glasses on the table and motions for me to join her. Come, sit. It's going to get cold. She sits down in the chair and I very slowly join her. The world around me seems to spin and flicker. Who are you? How did you get into my apartment? I ask this as I cautiously take a seat across the table from her, not where she'd set the plate of food. Her blonde hair frames her face and traces her jawline as she looks up at me, fork in hand, and smiles. What are you doing, Chris? She pushes the plate towards me. The smell of chicken breast, corn and potatoes fill the room. Eat before it gets cold. Stop being weird. I take the plate and slide it to where I am sitting, then push at it with the fork from the table. What's going on here? I ask. I can hear the pulsing next door. The building seems to breathe around me. Did you hear that? I ask. I reach over and touch the wall. The blonde woman pauses her eating, then slowly finishes chewing her mouthful of food, strangely eyeing me as she does so. Chris. She swallows a small sip of wine, then continues. What are you doing? She watches me, and then she reaches over and touches the wall as well. What do you hear? I withdraw my hand and shake my head. Nothing, never mind. I look down at my plate and back up to the woman sitting across from me. Before I can speak, she motions towards the glass of cola and points slightly with a fork. Don't forget to take those. The pills that had been sitting beside the glass had all but slipped my view as I'd sat in the company of this stranger in my apartment. I can hear the static from the intercom, the background on an insane music track that I'm slowly drowning within. The room pulses slightly and everything seems to vibrate. Chris. Her voice was louder this time, authoritative in manner. She points again to the medication on the table. Take your medicine. Her eyes widen ever so slightly with the statement and she nods to them again. I pick up the pills. There are 7 of them upon further inspection. I look back at her and she awaits for me to ingest them. Mary's voice echoes in my mind. There are things you cannot know. I swallow the pills, their bitter trails leaving my mouth feeling chalky and disgusting. I feel sick to my stomach and it feels like my eyes are swelling in their sockets. The blonde woman smiles. Good, see? Not so bad, are they? She takes another bite of her chicken before continuing. You have to remember to take your pills every day, Chris. Don't you remember what Dr. Stevens said? She said they'd help you. The room seems larger than it was a few minutes ago. The fluorescent lighting overhead flickers slightly and hums loudly. My living room flickers in and out of view and the pulsing in the distance soaks my entire existence. The room illuminates slowly. We are no longer alone. We're no longer in my apartment. The harshness of the overhead lighting on the pale yellow walls and linoleum make my eyes hurt. In my mind I wonder, perhaps there is something wrong with me.